And, Election day in Pennsylvania this year, primary June 2nd, it got pushed back because of the pandemic. And one of the other issues around voting this year is voting by mail. Jerry Dickinson is our guest today. He is the challenger for the congressional seat currently held by Congressman Mike Doyle. Let me ask you this right off the bat. How do you feel about the mail-in ballots? Because they've been kind of controversial.
Yeah, well, they have. I mean, it's the first time doing it in Pennsylvania. So, unfortunately, the first time is now started right in the middle of a pandemic. And so a lot of people, I think there's a lot of confusion about what this means. Some people think that the county is going to be sending them their ballots, not realizing, of course, that you have to apply for the ballot, and then there's online options. So it definitely created a lot of confusion. But that being said, the mail-in ballot now provides a safe opportunity for people to vote from the safety of their home, instead of having to go out into lines on June 2nd and risk their lives, really, at the end of the day, risk their lives to vote. And so the mail-in ballots have definitely provided an alternative route to doing that. But I think there has to be a lot more effort right now to inform voters about how to go about the process. And we've been doing that as a campaign, reaching out, making phone calls to folks all across the district to inform them about how this works, the process to walk through, and how to do it. And so it's certainly, a hurdle, but it's the best option we have right now, given all that's happening.
So you have chosen to run against Mike Doyle, who has been a big part of the Black community for a long time. A lot of people at this moment in time, this juncture in time, were very disillusioned with the Democratic Party after the endorsement process earlier this year. What made you decide to go for this seat, and how do you, because let's be honest, there were a lot of Democrats that felt very disenfranchised with the party overall after the endorsement process. How do you bring them back, and what do you say to them, those voters who feel that connection to the incumbent, to Congressman Doyle?
Sure. So, 25 years is a long time in office, is a quarter century. And so this campaign is the question for Mr. Doyle is not whether or not he's done something. After 25 years, he's done something. The question is whether he's done enough. And the answer to that question is a resounding no. And so when we look at what's happening in this district, this is the least livable region for African American women. The school to prison pipeline disproportionately affects Black girls and Black boys at some of the highest levels in the United States. Black men have higher rates of cardiovascular disease than white men. The homicide rate, much higher. I can go on and on and on about this. Lack of access to housing. We're losing our Black population every single year from unemployment, displacement, and gentrification. That's all been happening over the last 25 years. So again, not whether Mr. Doyle has done something, it's again, whether he has done enough. And when you look at it from that perspective, you say to yourself, what we have, the problems we have in the African American community here right now in this district, it is time for change. It is time for someone who's going to say to themselves, I can take this blue, heavily Democratic seat that will never go Republican and be big and bold and loud. When you think about the major Democratic leaders in the Democratic Party who hold safe blue districts, you can name them off the top of their head. They're bold, they're loud, they're big. They take up issues on civil rights, right? They're loud and advocates on human rights. We can do that here in this post-industrial kind of Rust Belt district. And again, it's personal. 2.5-year-old daughter growing up in Pittsburgh as a Black girl. I'm extremely concerned for educational and health and employment outcomes for her and thousands of other African Americans in this district. And that's the difference here. Change in style of leadership, a change in energy in leadership to actually address these issues. And I have a platform already that's out there to address housing, education, healthcare, and criminal justice reform. We can be big and we can be bold. Why not do it now? After 25 years, Mr. Doyle's done something. Now it's time to do something great in this district.
Now, you mentioned your daughter. You mentioned you have another on the way.
Yeah.
mean, let's be honest, this is also a region that, the rest of the world, or certainly the country, heard this is not a place for Black women. This is not a place for Black women to stay. How do you balance that as a dad of a Black girl?
Yeah, my wife and I, we moved back to Pittsburgh, and I want to be a part of solving the problem as it's going on here. Me and my wife's a school teacher at the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, and my daughter's growing up in a household of educators as a result of this. And so we want to be on the front lines as role models, but we also want to be on the front lines changing our communities for the better and being advocates for them. And, the easiest, a lot of people leaving the region, but there's a lot of promise here in the Pittsburgh region. There is a lot of promise in light of all those problems. The question is, how are we attacking those problems to make life better for everyone? And that requires us to be serious about criminal justice reform and the fact that Black men are incarcerated at higher rates than white in this district. The fact that people are being displaced and evicted from their homes. As a lawyer, I represented mostly African-American single mothers in eviction proceedings. And I remember 5 or 6 years ago representing a young woman, African-American, single. She was pregnant and she was being evicted from her apartment. She was going to be on the streets. Okay, that's just one example. I helped defend her in court and keep her in her apartment so that she wouldn't become homeless. But that's happening over and over and over again. Hundreds of thousands of people that are affected by those conditions here in this district. And so if you don't have someone in office who feels the pain and understands those issues from the heart, right? I came up out of the foster care system. I get it. I feel that pain. That helps to influence policy and advocacy. Very different style of leadership than what we've had for the last 25 years.
We got to take a break. We have a lot more to talk about this morning on the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show, so don't go away.